Hey friends, it's Nicole with Guiding Echoes. And for those of you who may not know me, I am a psychic medium and an HSP. And as a psychic medium, I have the unique ability to connect with spirits on the other side. And as an HSP, I am able to sense the feelings and the fears and authenticity and inauthenticity of other people. So, I wasn't planning on talking about this today. I actually wasn't planning on going live today. And there was just something that welled up inside of me all of a sudden that said I needed to talk about this with you. So, here we are. First of all, I want to say that if you are in the process of working with someone who's crossing over, and by that I mean if you have a loved one who's in the process of crossing over, I want you to know that my heart goes out to you. I want you to know that it is okay that you feel a very heavy burden in your heart. I want you to know that it is understandable if you don't have all the answers, if you don't know what to do, if you feel lost, if you feel confused. That is all okay, and it is understandable even if it's uncomfortable. And what you are experiencing right now is a form of grief before the loss hits. And so your body, your mind, your energy are already in the process of accepting the inevitable. And that's scary and it's hard. Make no mistake, this is hard. And so, what I wanted to do today is to really just kind of give you some support and validation. And I also want to give you some guidance on what you can do for your loved one and also what not to do as your loved one is making this transition. Because one of the things that is really, I want to say, confusing and strange, I guess, about this type of situation and experience is that everyone is having a different experience. Like everyone's absorbing this differently. So the person who's crossing away is having that experience. You're having your experience of knowing what's coming. And all of your other brothers and sisters and the friends and the parents and the family, everyone is processing this differently. So some people are getting angry, right? They're in their anger and they're stirring things up. Other people are disconnecting, and that's probably frustrating for you because you're like, don't you care about this person? Don't you care about us? And people disconnect because they care and they don't know how to handle it. There are people who are going overboard and being helpful because they don't know what else to do. These are all different ways of processing the experience that we're having inside of us, because the truth is the same emotional response is showing up in very different ways for different people. So if you're confused by how different people are handling this, just remember that no one has the answer to the right way to behave right now. Does that make sense? So everyone's experiencing the emotion, the overwhelm, anger, grief, sadness, all these things, the feeling of being lost, all come up at different times, right? Have you noticed that? Like, you don't stay in just one feeling, you don't stay in one emotion, you don't stay in one energy. It shifts through this whole process before your loved one even makes the transition, before it's complete. So know that that is normal. And in this time, while your loved one is crossing over, it's really important to find that balance of being there for others, but also claiming space for yourself. You deserve time to grieve. You deserve time to be angry. You deserve time to have those WTF moments, because you're going to have a lot of those. You deserve the space to be able to express that without the judgment of others. You also deserve to be comforted while you are losing someone. You deserve to have some sympathy. You deserve to be understood. And I also want to address this, because this is coming through very clearly, is that it is not selfish for you to want to honor and to speak out about your needs right now. And it's very important for you to know that, because here's what will happen is that your loved one is making a transition and it's hard for you. And then you start to think to yourself that you're being selfish, or you start to feel guilty because you have needs too, right? You start to feel as if you're unworthy of speaking up about what you need right now and how you're feeling. Please don't do that to yourself. Please don't do that to yourself. You're going through something very emotionally significant and hard. This is hard. This isn't easy. You're losing someone you love, right? And even though you believe in the spirit world, even though you know this beautiful soul who's crossing over is going to shower you with love and give you signs, and you can continue that communication when they cross over, it's still different, right? It's still different. So it's okay to grieve that and acknowledge that now. And it's okay to take time to yourself. It's okay to take time with your loved one, of course. It's okay to speak up and tell people what you need, and tell people, I'm not doing well. That's okay. And if people judge you for that, if people make you feel bad for already feeling bad, if people make you feel bad for your experience, they're not your people. They're not your people, at least not in this moment. So find those people and surround yourself with the people who can be supportive of you. All right. So we don't have to wait for someone to cross over before we feel that way. You're feeling that now. So just please keep that in mind. It's okay to feel. It's okay to have needs, and it's okay to speak them out. The right people will help you through this. So, the other thing that I felt led to talk about today is how to, I want to say, communicate and behave around the person who is crossing over. And the reason for this part of the conversation is because I think sometimes when someone is going through that transition, we start to, of course, lose a part of ourselves. And when we're already losing ourselves, we almost don't know what to say anymore, right? We don't know if it's appropriate to still make jokes if we're natural jokesters. We don't know if we can express our feelings to our loved one. We just don't know, right? We don't know. So what I want to, I guess, encourage you to do is to always act and respond with a heart of compassion and love. And I want you to be really aware of your own intuition and very aware of that voice in your head that guides you towards what you may want to say and what you may want to hold back on. Because for those of you who are intuitive, and I know that pretty much this whole audience is intuitive, we sometimes have a tendency to doubt our experience and to doubt that inner voice. And then we look back at it later on, we're like, oh my gosh, I should have listened. And so when you're working with someone who's crossing over, your experience may go something like you're about to say something to your loved one that you think they want to hear, or you think that would bring a smile to their face, or you're about to say something, and this little voice in your head will suddenly say, don't say that. Zip it. Whatever voice will tell you to listen to that. Listen to that. The opposite is that you want to say something and you're afraid to, but there's this voice in your head that's encouraging you to say it, and it's telling you he or she really needs to hear this right now. This is important. So listen to that voice, and also make sure that everything you say is out of an energy of love for that person, right? So when you're interacting with your loved one who's in the process of crossing over, your experience with this person, it's no longer about you, it's about them. Every interaction from here on out is more about them. And here's what I mean by that. It means that you're not going to someone when they're on their deathbed and you're saying to them, you remember that horrible thing that you said to me 5 years ago and you said XYZ? I just need clarity on what you meant by that. A lot of times they don't remember. And even if they do, they don't have the energy to process that and to speak about that. And it's interesting because there are a lot of people who will show up when someone's sick so they can have that last match, I guess, that last fight. And I don't think that's really done out of an energy of love, So we want to be really mindful of that. We need to find a way to get closure for the past and to forgive the past, even if it wasn't asked for, and just move forward from there. And as I'm talking to you about this, there's this story that's coming to mind I can't remember the gentleman's name, but him and his dad had always had a rocky relationship. And when his dad was passing away, the son said to him, Dad, is there anything I've ever done that you're proud of? Like anything at all? And the dad, sick on his deathbed, actually said, you know what, son? None that I could think of. Those were the last words. That was the last conversation. So if there's someone in your life who's making that transition and they've never really been nice to you, and they've always been, if we're honest, abusive, and you think that this might be the last chance to get some type of redemption or the last chance for them to show that they're human, it could actually be their last chance to make a cheap shot at you. So I feel like I don't know who it is that needs to hear this, but don't put yourself in that situation. For the last words of someone to be rotten, that's something that stays with you. So just keep in mind that if someone who wasn't nice to you is transitioning, you don't have to make a special appearance for that. You're going to have to work through enough things as it is, and you're probably working through those things now. You don't have to show up, especially if you know this person isn't nice. And a lot of times when someone's crossing over, we feel the need to be there, which is a nice sentiment. But it's really important for us to always have good boundaries and good standards and good shields to protect us from people who meaningfully, or who purposely is what I'm saying, who purposely hurt us. You don't have to show up for that. So just keep that in mind, okay? And the other thing that is coming up to me right now is it can be really hard when our loved one is transitioning and they're afraid, right? We know that they're afraid. And we want to talk them out of that fear. We want them to know everything's going to be okay. And I think sometimes we say that even if we don't believe it. And that's a really interesting dynamic when you think about it, because when people are transitioning, I think that their awareness gets stronger. Like most people, their awareness gets stronger. They become more sensitive. They become more, what's the word I'm looking for? Perceptive on an energy level. So if you're telling them that everything's going to be okay, they know you're lying. So, advice for the day, don't lie to someone who's crossing over. Just don't do it. Because if you don't believe that yourself, or you have doubts about it, they're going to pick up on it. And then before you know it, the two of you are just engaging in a conversation that is lip service. And you don't want that. You want your last moments to be so precious and meaningful and beautiful and wonderful. So with that said, it's always going to be a good thing to tell that person what you love about them. Tell that person what you love about them. To the person who's crossing over and still have awareness, and just say, I don't know if I ever told you how much I've always loved your laugh. I don't know if I've told you how much I love the beam in your eyes. Like, when you're happy, you're really happy. Just remind the person, tell the person of all the things that you absolutely love about them. And that will make them feel so grateful. And if they cry, don't feel bad about it, because it's not a bad cry. It's that whoa, I was meaningful. Like, my life meant something. I touched someone. I touched this person. They're good tears. And there may be a little sadness there too, because they're leaving. They're making their exit. So this is going to be one of their last interactions with you. So it makes sad that there would be a touch of sadness there too. And when that happens, when your loved one is sad as they're crossing over, as they're making their exit from this realm, just support them in that. Don't try to change their experience. Don't try to change that emotion. Just sit with them in that. Cry with them if you need to. And just tell them how absolutely lucky you are to have had that person in your life. Because here's the thing, guys and girls. Being a medium, connecting with spirits on the other side, I've learned that when people are able to cross over in an energy of love, that experience is easier. And if someone's able to cross over in an energy of love and peace, it means that they are able to communicate with you a lot easier once they cross over, because love and peace and compassion all have this energy level that is really high, that is very big, that is very expansive. So if someone is blessed enough to cross over in that energy, then they stay in that energy, and that energy becomes even bigger. That is a different energy from people who are crossing over with fear, guilt, and regret. They can still communicate with us from the other side. However, it may be more difficult for them. They may have to, every spirit on the other side, they do seem to go through some type of adjustment period, I guess you can say. And so it is typical for spirits to need a certain amount of time before they are able to come through clearly after they've crossed over. So it's usually around 6 months. That's just, again, just general. Some people are 3 months. I've had spirits come through and were absolute chatterboxes with the biggest energy after having crossed over just like a week before. And that always blows my mind because I'm like, wow, this person, like, this person was a top of the class show off, wasn't he or she? But for the most part, there is a transition that usually seems to be around 6 months. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. But however, uh, those that cross over with that big beaming energy, knowing that they were loved, knowing that they can leave this world in peace because they really feel as if they've completed their purpose, they've done what they set out to do, those are the ones that are able to communicate easier through dream visitations, through mediums, even through just speaking out into the ether loud enough, vibrant enough so that we can hear it with our physical ears. That's pretty amazing. So you want to make that transition as easy as possible. And you want to make it, if you can, a loving space for both of you. So that's just something that I want you to keep in mind. And the other thing that I want to say, I wasn't planning on touching on this. Actually, I wasn't even planning on making this video at all today, but I felt prompted. One of the things is that if your loved one crossed over, has very recently crossed over, and maybe the two of you were on the outs with each other, like you weren't talking, or like someone was saying here, the mom had dementia. There will be a transition period for them on the other side. There will be a transition period, or an adjustment period. And so on the other side, they are surrounded by family and friends and guardians and angels and counselors, essentially, who are helping them through all of this. And they may have some regrets and things that they need to work through, that they need to process. And someone who crossed over who maybe had dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, that's a different energy because that's a mental breakdown. And that's not their real energy at play. So I need to make another video on this one, don't I? So, okay, so here's what I need you guys to know about Alzheimer and dementia and things like that. All right. I want to make sure I'm explaining this right. What you are actually witnessing is someone crossing over very, very slowly through that period, right? And they're not losing their mind, they're losing their consciousness. So by the time someone with dementia has passed away, their spirit and their consciousness may have actually crossed over sooner than that, while the body was still alive and the body was still speaking nonsense. And you know what I'm talking about too, because sometimes people with dementia will just say the most off-the-wall things, and you're like, did I hear that right? What? It's because their consciousness is slipping. Once that transition is complete, they're in their full energy on the other side. They're not confused about who they are. They're not struggling with weird emotions. They're able to put together their sentences just fine because who they were in the end of this life isn't really who they were. So they do keep all that intact. So I don't know if I'm explaining this right. I hope I am. But basically, I guess what I'm really trying to say is people who cross over with Alzheimer's and dementia, they're aware of who they are. When they cross over, they are healed completely. Their energy is big and bright and loving, and they typically find a way to get a message to their loved ones to let them know they're okay. They are of sound mind now. And if you're watching this right now and you're saying, Nicole, I never got that message, guess what? You're getting it right now. Remember, guys, I wasn't planning on talking about any of this. I was not planning on going live. I was not planning on having this conversation with you. I was prompted, and everything that I feel like I'm talking about right now is being channeled, and I'm as I'm talking to you guys right now, I'm feeling like these shifts and feeling what needs to be said. So a lot of this isn't me exactly. I'm just trying to figure out how to put into words the impressions that I'm feeling and the experiences that I'm seeing come up. So I guess in some cases you guys are seeing a mediumship reading at play right now. So I know that a lot of you are scared right now. And I know that so many of you just don't know what to expect and don't know if it's okay for you to feel what you feel. I want you to know that all of that is okay. It doesn't feel okay. I know that. It's uncomfortable. And this is part of that process of grief and of transformation and even of love. And one of the things that I want you to know is that grief is the language of love. Let me say that again. Grief is the language of love. Grief is not going to prevent you from being able to connect with your loved one on the other side. Grief does not do that because grief is love. You feel grief when something you love disappears or when someone you love disappears. So if you're feeling grief, it means that you're feeling the absence of something or someone that you love. That doesn't prevent a conversation or contact. What can prevent it is feelings of regret, of shame, especially shame. Shame's a big one. So there's other things that may prevent the communication. It's never the grief. Many, 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 many people are in grief and are able to get dream visitations and signs. And yeah, so please don't fall for that belief because belief alone can dictate our experiences. So if that's been your belief that grief blocks communication, I would encourage you to change that belief and say grief encourages communication. Grief allows spot on communication. Grief isn't fun, but grief does allow an opportunity to communicate because grief is a language of love. It's the forgotten love language. Yeah. So I hope this was helpful, guys. Please know that, again, my heart is with you. I have so much respect and I guess you can say even adoration for those who are grieving and are going through this type of transformation. Because until you've been through it, no one knows what it really feels like. When you're going through it, you're really walking through energetic fire, right? You are having to show up every day in your life, even if you don't want to. So even when you feel weak, you're actually portraying to the world and even to yourself how very strong you are. And then also, what I'm being reminded of right now is as you're going through this period, please remember to call on your angels and your guides. As I'm talking right now, I saw my angels coming through. And whenever they do that, it's because they want me to remind you that you have angels and guides and ancestors who are on your side, who are working with you, who want to help you to make this transition easier, who want to help you through that grief. So they're there for you. So if you're saying, Nicole, I don't have anyone to talk to about any of this, yes, you do. You have your angels, you have your guides, you have that beautiful spirit family that is just one prayer away. So talk to them. All right, my friends, that is it for today. I do hope that this talk was helpful for you. If you found yourself getting uncomfortable, if you found yourself crying, if you found yourself angry, if you found yourself going through all those different emotions, please know that I care about you. I'm sending you loads of compassion. And It is absolutely okay for you to feel every one of those, I want to say beautiful emotions. I know they don't seem beautiful, but they are, because again, it's an expression of your love for someone, and that is always beautiful. Love is beautiful in all of its forms. So take care, my friends. Be safe. Look out for each other and be good. I will see you guys soon, and I'm trying to see if any other messages are trying to come through for you guys. They're saying, your angels are saying be blessed. Be blessed. You're alive today, right? So be blessed. All right, my friends. Take care. I'll see you next time.